Okay, now it's time for the Kingdom of Shadows. Are you guys ready? Are you guys excited for Kingdom of Shadows? I hope you are, because I'm, not very. I would rate my excitement as, I don't know, maybe a 3 or 4 out of 10 to play this. But yeah, we got the Kingdom of Shadows. Like with the Assault from the Shadows agenda, I'll be doing it with Lannister, Tyrell, and what's the other one? Martell. Because those are the three factions with like the loyal in-faction Shadows sort of tech that actually goes with the agenda the best. So yeah, I mentioned some of the reasons I don't like this agenda in my pack review for Beneath the Red Keep, but just to briefly mention them again, you're going to notice that the character roster for all three of these decks looks very similar, and this is because not only does the agenda so it lets you use these non-loyal shadow characters from any faction, which has the potential to be cool, but then what it also does is it super discourages you from ever playing any characters that are marshaled normally because they all cost one extra gold if you just marshal something normally instead of going through shadows, which is it makes like all normal characters. I don't necessarily want to say unplayable, but they're just so much less efficient that very few of them are ever worth it at that point. And then once your deck already has like 25 Shadows characters in it, you might as well just go all the way at that point. You're going to have a pretty hard time sort of including any other cards that don't go along with that theme. So if I ever get around to playing this agenda again, then maybe I will try decks that have like the big expensive centerpiece characters for the faction. Like this a Lannister deck, maybe I'd have Tywin, the Shadow Cersei, and I don't even know what else, something else in here as non-Shadows characters that can still be marshaled. And sure, they cost one more gold, but like it's okay to pay one more gold for that one-time investment of Tywin, assuming you're able to keep him on the board after that. That's still worth it. But if you compare it to like marshaling multiple smaller characters, like even the little one cost reducer guys, they no longer pay for themselves on the turn that you marshal them. Trying to marshal two to three or four cost characters, and all of those now costing one more, so that marshaling those three now costs three more gold total, is just sort of a non-starter. Like you can't really do it. So you end up with a character list that looks more like this, where I think the only non-shadows character in this whole deck is Burned Men, and that's because their ambush 2, lets them circumvent the drawback. You can just ambush them for 2. They don't actually cost any additional gold. And you're going to notice that with the other Kingdom of Shadows decks I'm playing, that they all have a very similar character roster to this. They actually look more similar to each other than just a regular Lannister deck would be compared to a regular Tyrell deck, because they're actually literally using a lot of the same characters, as opposed to having a deck full of Lannister characters compared to a deck full of Tyrell characters. So I don't like that. It's how it makes the decks converge like that. It makes them all feel very similar. And the other thing that I don't like about it is, again, the fact that it's forcing you to play almost all of your characters out of shadows means that there's a lot of silver bullets that will just like automatically lose you the game. So the King of the North and Barring the Gates are two of those. And depending on the matchup, you might be able to survive one turn of being on total lockdown and not being able to do anything at all. But if you have more than one turn of that, you're probably going to lose. And it's not really a game at all. It's just like, oh, derp, they included the magic silver bullet that causes an instant win for them. Which is not me really lamenting this deck losing. It's just, in my opinion, sort of a poor design choice on Fantasy Flight's part to make something that's so polarizing like that. I mean, I think everyone can agree that it's not really that fun or interesting if your opponent basically has plots that say, when revealed, you win the game. That's not the greatest thing in terms of game balance. And this agenda lends itself to losing that way to a lot of different stuff. Another thing that you'll instant lose to is the Stark event, No Surprises, which doesn't let you bring anything out of shadows. That's just like, oh, derp, I guess he won. Game over. Political Disaster is also devastating for these decks, but that's not exclusive to this deck. There's a lot of decks that just die to Political Disaster. So yeah. On the other hand, I will say if your opponent is not packing any of those silver bullets some way, somehow, in terms of how effective the deck actually is, it's definitely not like a top tier deck. You're just still going to lose and roll over and die to the best decks, but it can do well enough for itself. Again, if they don't have like the anti-tech that just totally kills you, you can definitely do some work with these. They have a lot of long-term value if you actually get to like play all the combos and bring your dudes back to hand multiple times and stuff like that. So I've basically worked the list of Shadows characters down to this general roster, the ones that I'm mostly going to be using in these decks. There will be a little variation, but not much. You'll notice the Shadows Cersei is not in here. I think she could be in here. I mean, she's probably fine, but the reason she's not in the deck is this list has 0 loyal characters. If I put her in, she's the only loyal character. I mean, you could just use her and use the Hollow Hill, but personally, I would rather have the Hollow Hill than have the Shadow version of Cersei, so I just left her out. The Hollow Hill is super dank. It's already a card that I like a lot, and in a deck like this, I think it's like extra good because it lets you put combos together. You'd be like, oh, I have Sir Robert Strong in Shadows. Let me use the Hollow Hill and add the Regent's Guard to my hand. Stuff like that can be really good. So yeah, we've got Mandan, Robert, and the Regent's Guard. This is Sir Mandan Moore. I know some people really like this card. He's not that effective in my experience. Sometimes he kills people, but Sir Robert Strong is really the killer, and that's why he's in here as a 3-of. You really want this guy on deck. This is one of the main reasons to like play Shadows or to play Kingdom of Shadows, is he can be really hard to deal with if the opponent, if they don't really have characters that are above that 5 cost limit that can do work for them, and they just know that he's sitting there in Shadows. It can be such a huge pain for them, and using him multiple times can definitely win you a game. I've got 3 copies of Hagen's Daughter because these decks end up being super expensive in terms of characters. There's nothing that you can really marshal. I mean, I guess you can use like Burn Men for 2 gold. If you use the discount on your agenda, then a lot of characters technically cost 2 gold or less, but the thing about this agenda discount, reduce the cost of the first character you bring out of Shadows each round by 2, it's basically like just a permanent plus 2 gold, is the way that you can think about it, because you're definitely going to be using it every round. So these characters still basically, you can all look at them as costing however much they are printed to cost, more often than not, like in terms of their overall value. So lots of really expensive characters, and you really want Hagen's Daughter to absorb military claim. That's why 3 copies of her in here. You want to have her available so that you don't have to be like, oh goodness, I'm having to kill my, 4 or 5, however much cost character that I paid for just regular military claim. Hagen's Daughter takes care of that. And then I just put together sort of the most efficient other Shadows cards that I could go through. I did try Starfall Spy originally. I determined that it's bad. It's super expensive. It has like the worst cost to strength ratio. And the problem is that if it read just like action returns Starfall Spy to Shadows to put another card you control in Shadows into play, then it would actually be good. But it requires you winning the challenge, and even if you win a challenge with it, you still can't actually control the timing of when the card comes out of Shadows. Like, you might not want to bring a card out of Shadows at that specific time that the Starfall Spy won the challenge. It's a very awkward card to use and get value out of. I think Starfall Spy is more a card for like Assault from the Shadows, because then you can do the classic meme of using it to bring like 7 cost Ariane out of Shadows and really dumb stuff like that. In this deck, it's not nearly so good. There's only like a couple cards that are really good to combo it with, and again, it's just like, it's not consistent enough, so it's not in here. No Starfall Spy. We've got these instead. Sort of a lot of long-term value cards. We got the Castle Guard. He can send, Sir Robert back to Shadows, send the Regent's Guard back to Shadows to bring Sir Robert back to hand again, things like that. Obviously, Clever Feint and the Iron Bank for similar reasons, reusing the Shadows triggers. The Bowels of Casterly Rock. The Tunnels of the Red Keep I've been trying. It's okay, I've determined. I'm still not sure if it's better to have this, Underhanded Methods, or both. I think a consideration is to drop Poisoned Coin for Underhanded Methods. I'm not sure if I've actually triggered Poisoned Coin yet, but I want to try it, so it's here for now. Then we've just got like some economy and some milks. Yes, Milk is still a good card in this deck because it's Milk. And I think all three of the Kingdom decks I made have the exact same plot lineup, which is just Riddle at the gates, double trade routes, 3 resets, Dohaeris, Morghulis, first snow. Kind of lame, but I mean, what else are you gonna do? I mean, you could maybe you could cut like Morghulis and try to not use it because it's not that well supported for you. But a lot of times, if you're playing against like a semi-normal deck, a lot of the times the case is going to be that if the game just goes on long enough, you get to like use your trade routes again. If the plot deck resets, then you'll be able to outvalue them. And so sometimes you just need a Valar Morghulis to just clear the board and slow the game down. I think it is justified to have it in the deck for most of these Shadows decks. The Kingdom of Shadows. So let's see what happens. I'm not going to play this guy here because he only plays Queensguard. I've added Jon Snow Queensguard to the list of things that I am just plain tired of playing against. Just over it. We will see what happens. We'll see if there's a silver bullet or not. Barring the gates is fairly common right now. Like, I've lost quite a few games testing these Kingdom of Shadows decks to random barring the gates. So, I think the agenda will become better at a later time in the future when it's not newly released and it's not being played very often, and so people aren't just randomly slapping barring the gates in their deck only to dunk on this agenda. Then you might be able to do some more stuff with it. Oh, goodness. Okay. While we're waiting, let's open up the Shadows roster and look at some of these Shadows characters. Sort of go over them. You could also, because of Ambush, you could probably get away with playing the Hound in this deck. But he's not that good without like stuff that specifically combos with him, like Flea Bottom and that type of stuff. And you just can't do Flea Bottom in these decks. Even in the Martell one, I tried it, and you can't. Because it's so damn expensive, there's no way you can ever pay for your stuff without trade routes. So, just can't do Flea Bottom. Don't know if I'm going to say, unfortunately, that, oh, you can't do Flea Bottom, how terrible, but it is what it is. Okay. So, somebody joined. The main card I wanted to point out was Hired Assassin. Hired Assassin is... Oh, great, friggin' Targaryen. Hired Assassin is either like super good or pretty bad, depending on the matchup. I'd say it's a card that you would consider whether to include or not, depending on what you expect to go up against. So 1, 3, 2, 2. Starting with Bowels is really good. And because he's Targ, he shouldn't have any type of location control. Naval superiority. Good job, you got me. This is why we play Riddle, man. Like I said, I started playing Riddle not because of At the Gates. Because I was happy to open At the Gates into At the Gates. I started playing Riddle because of naval superiority. It's like, F that. Not putting up with that. Like here, he has a card in Shadows. This is probably Aegon. If I had a Hired Assassin, I could sort of slam on him for that. Man, this is going to be a lame game. I have Nighttime Marauders. That's pretty good. Oh, and we have Robert. Bobby. Well, he's going into Shadows. I think now I just pass. Yeah, there's... Like, if I put anything else in Shadows, I can't bring Robert out. And I want Robert on deck, so I won't do anything. He's saving 3 gold. I mean, that's probably for Aegon. Yep. But what... I guess he'll get Second Sons. That's what I would do. Then we can kill the Second Sons with Robert, hopefully. Oh, you got Dario. Maybe he has a Second Sons in hand. That would be a reason to get Dario, because he can discard the Second Sons to reserve. Damn. The best card in my hand, of course. But there's two more in my deck. Hopefully I can find them. How do you like them apples? Robert Strong is so good against Targaryen. So good. They only have one super dangerous card that's immune to him. Like, all their other stuff can get killed by him. Oh, yeah. You defend with Dario and kill him. Please do it. Oh, it's so juicy. Well, let's do the Regent's Guard and Taxation phase. We're going to do a dank meme on him. I could do an Intrigue, but he's over reserve, so we don't need to do that. We're going to bring the Regent's Guard out in Taxation phase and get 2 extra gold from Bowels. I consider that a spicy play. Well, we're off to a good start. We have to hope he doesn't have Political Disaster. Playing Naval makes me think he's the type of guy that would play Political Disaster. Did not discard a Second Sons. Interesting. We also dodged reserve this way. 8 cards in hand. Didn't have to discard down for 7 reserve. The King in the North! Of course! Damn it! Oh Lord, I can't escape it. It's everywhere. Oh man. Well, if he doesn't have Beggar King, then it's probably fine. We had a pretty solid first turn there, so hopefully we can just ride this out and he doesn't play Barring the Gates. If he has Barring the Gates, I'm going to cry. Oh, that would be ridiculous. This is exactly the type of thing that would happen. Let's just Duke Bowels, because I am that scared of Political Disaster. You in the shadows. You in the shadows. Well, I'm not going to bring them out since I can't use the ability. So 2 here. 2 here. Put this in the shadows. You can see that the burn men are still good to have around. You can just toss them out, and like this turn, you know, I can eat one of them for military claim. Saving 4 gold. Well, he does have Dracarys, so let's do this. That's got to be multiple burn events. 4 gold. There's no way. Is it Consuming Flames? It's Consuming Flames. Alright. So he discarded 2 cards to remove a burned man. I'm okay with this so far. Oh, another one. How unfortunate. Now let's see if he will Dracarys the Regent's Guard. Come on, do it, Dracarys. A triple dog dare you to play it. Oh, no Dracarys. Get poison coined. I guess this card was worth it after all. Oh, he discarded Kotho. Get out. This guy dying is unfortunate, but whatever. Not the end of the world. The important thing here is that he also had to, like, suffer under the King in the North. It wasn't only me that had to suffer for it. Milk, probably the best discard there. As long as he doesn't have Daenerys. If he finds Daenerys, then I'll be sad that he discarded that. Alright, you guys think I should play trade routes or trade routes? Which one should I do? The one on the left or the one on the right? I'm feeling the one on the right. Let's go for that one. One nice thing about this agenda, the playstyle and just overall construction of the deck and the way that that you use it and everything, it does reasonably well against Targ. You can still randomly lose to Drogon. Like, if they just draw all their burn cards, then you're still going to lose. But I think it overall does fairly well compared to other super obnoxious factions. Pinch of Powder, that's interesting. In Daznak's Pit, I'm not really scared of that. I have to remember that he plays a Pinch of Powder. That is an interesting choice. Luckily, there's no way he's going to have enough gold to use that. He's a little bit strapped on cash, I would say. Just a teeny tiny wee little bit. So what cards do we know he has? Targ Loyalist, Flea Bottom. Damn, these don't have a cost, or they default to 0. Pinch and Daznak's Pit. So I can bring out my Nighttime Marauders and pick in Daznak's Pit and discard those. Or I can pick Viserys. I don't think he has Dracarys. I think he would have used Dracarys if he had it. I mean, he could have drawn it, but it's not super likely that he has the third Consuming Flames. And he put something in Shadows. So we can reveal his hand and know what it is that he put in Shadows. I'm going to toss this Gold Road because I'm super spooked by political disaster. Let's just do it. Whoa, how did he not discard anything? So you don't have to discard the dash. It doesn't default to 0 with that ability. That sucks. Well, we couldn't have hit anything relevant anyway. It's just the Flea Bottom duplicate. Miss Sandy, Raiding Kalizar, Khal Drogo. Yeah, there's no 6s. Alright, do we want to get gold? If I get 13 gold, then I can get 2 more in challenge phase, and I'll have 15. That's 5, 8, 7. I think I'll just draw a card, then decide in challenge phase how to spend it, or if I want to spend it all. Yeah, I think I'll cast Paw Jorah and kill Aegon with Bobby. I can do that, right? Fealty. So he has Dracarys. Oh no, I saw his hand. Why is he using Fealty? He doesn't have Dracarys. I know what he has. Is he trying to spook me? I saw your hand, dude. It's not gonna work. Card in Shadows is a pinch of powder. So we're just gonna do this. Boop. Oh yeah, I'm supposed to bounce this guy to hand with Cat's Paw. Get out. Do I want to let Rhaegal win an intrigue challenge on me? I mean, not really, but it's kind of awkward. I can. Oh, he's doing it this way. Well, he screwed up. Man, he's trying hard with that Dracarys fake out. He's trying to make me think he has it. It's funny. Get out. Get out, Targaryen. Your double consuming flames play to kill 2 burned men did not save you. Could not get me with that. So yeah, as I was saying, no Drogon, no 6-cost Drogon. Targaryen's a whole lot less scary when that card's not in the picture. Well, I guess we got him. I mean, it sort of showed off what the deck does. Put a bunch of stuff in shadows and be super annoying with trade routes. And he did go for King in the North, but we were able to weather it. Again, because he didn't have a King card and he was like forced to play it when he didn't want to. And also because we had a good first turn. We did well on the first turn, and he didn't have very much stuff going into that second turn. So he wasn't able to do too much damage with it. If you could, as compared to like if you're playing against, I don't know, whatever obnoxious BS. They have big dudes with renown, and then they play the King in the North, and they're able to just do all 3 of their challenges for free and get 5 power or something. Then you're like dead. But that doesn't happen here. The Targaryen matchup can be good because the whole Shadows mechanic protects you from hard board removal. Like, you can definitely just sit there and play very reactively, and your dudes in Shadows are safe from the removal effects. And you don't, after they come out, they get whatever their reaction is to coming out of Shadows, and then they've sort of done their job. If they end up getting killed by something after that, it's not the biggest deal in the world. And the character that it's actually most important to keep alive, which is Robert Strong, has 8 strength, so it's very difficult to get rid of him. Plus, he doesn't ever actually have to go into any challenges to do his thing. He can just bounce around without ever being vulnerable to cards like Dracarys. So yep, friggin' got him. So I'm gonna do the Martell and Tyrell ones as well. And that's another thing I wanted to say that somebody's calling. They're gonna have to wait. That I don't like so much about the Kingdom of Shadows agenda is you have all these such similar characters, and then it's like, what is even the point to play this out of other factions? Like, what's the point of even playing Kingdom of Shadows out of like Night's Watch or even Stark? Like, what are you gonna do with it? They don't have any. Like, you've taken away whatever their in-faction Shadows tech would really be in most cases. I've stuck with Lannister, Martell, and Tyrell because they have Battles of Casterly Rock, the Shadow City, and Old Town Undercity. But other factions don't have cards like that. I guess Baratheon still has the Black Cells, which is pretty dank. So there's like 4 factions that have sort of a centerpiece location to go with it. But yeah, that's the introduction to the Kingdom of Shadows. Let's hope the other games go as well as this one did. I actually kind of want to get at least one game where I just get totally trolled on by double barring or something, so I can show you how much of a non-game it is. But yeah, this was a good start for sure. This shows you how the deck can be effective and like survive the opponent having one counter card when other things basically go in your favor.